Hey everyone, this is Ben from Cheddar Flow, and today is a very important video for anybody that uses Cheddar Flow. I'm going to make this intro brief and we'll head right into it, but basically I'm going to be going over the basics of option order flow, so you guys are going to be able to kind of get some very basic to intermediate level strategies to use this software, and also get a sense on all that the software provides for you, because there's a lot of things that maybe some people don't realize that can be used on here that are very beneficial to traders and even investors alike. So I'm going to hop right into it right now. So the first thing that I'm going to start off with today is just what we see when a print hits the tape. And what I mean by a print hitting the tape is basically each and every one of these. So for example, this one right here for SPY, well, each of these are SPY right now because I'm on there, but each of these bars that you see for going down would be a print hitting the tape. And basically what that means is it's just hitting the tape that we have on here on our software. It's coming through, and that actually is a term that used to be used when they had to write the actual ticker itself and those orders that were going through back in like the 1950s and 1960s and stuff like that. So it was a really old time phrase, and it's still used today actually. It even is used for options order flow on whatever software. So whenever a print hits the tape, we see all of these, all this information on here. And basically the key things that I'm looking at for each print, and it's going to be different for each person, but the key things that I like to look at, and especially beneficial for beginners and intermediate level, is one, the premium. So the first one that you're looking at here is the amount of premium that went in to that contract or contracts that they were buying. And basically this person bought $657,000 worth of this 460 call. So that's quite a bit for sure. SPY tends to have a lot of money going into it. So I'll talk about filters a little bit later in this video, which will be a very important thing, because that is going to show some of my setups that I use personally for my trading. So you're going to want to stick around for that. But basically $657,000 was put into a 460 call at the price of 456. So this person's betting that's going to hit 460 within this time, relatively speaking, the time of June 17th of 2022, because that's the expiration. So super basics right there. They bought it. They think this is an out of the money call, by the way, because they bought it at 456 when the price of SPY was at 456. They took the out of the money call for 460. Now, what seems to get people kind of confused originally is the type of order for each of these. So you'll see here automatically we have the sweep right here. We have a split order and a block order. Those are the three main types of orders that the Cheddar Flow software kind of spits out whenever a print hits the tape, like I was sharing with you earlier. And basically a sweep is somebody that's very urgent at buying a contract or contracts of a certain option. And the reason they're urgent, and you can see right here in our order details, if you click the three dots and then the order details, the reason they're urgent is because they're hitting above or at the ask. And remember, the spread of the option contract is basically the bid and ask, and the ask is the more pricier side of that contract. So they're hitting, in this case, above or at the ask, and this one was above 1314, probably, and some change after that made it above. But basically, this person's not waiting around to get filled at the bid price. They wanted it at 1314 right away at that moment, so they were buying it, and that kind of shows us that there's some aggression towards buying that. And a strategy which I'll share with you later in this video is people that like to hit the ask or above the ask, especially on a lot of contracts that you see hit the tape. Typically that's a very bullish sign for the near term, because they think a large move is going to happen very soon, and they want to get into that very quickly. The next order would be a split order. These typically are characterized in different forms like spreads, which I will share a little bit more with you later in the video. This is something that is a bit more of a complex topic if you're going to do some spreads or like a butterfly, and you may want to look at those like online to figure out those different types of spreads, but this is still a useful concept for those on here, although it is the type of order that I don't use as much in my variables for trading. So split orders I don't take into consideration as much as I would a block or a sweep. And now a block, which I'm going to share with you here, is an institution that is buying the contracts of whatever put or call, and basically, or they could be selling them. Basically, block prints can only be an institution that's taken them because there are large blocks of contracts that institution is buying or selling. So this is basically, when you see a lot of block orders happening, that typically means there's a lot of institutional interest in whatever ticker that is. And that tends to be a good sign because remember, institutions tend to know where that ticker may head in the near or long term. They have a better idea just because they have different models and algorithms that allow them to tell where the price of whatever stock or ETF may go in the future. So these people are smart, and that's why you want to get a sense on what they're doing. Now, the second thing I want to share with you today is the filters we have. And we actually just had a big update on the Cheddar Flow software for our filters. And one of the first things that I like to use in my setup, I use it to this day, literally every single day I will filter for this. I changed the premium for over $100,000 worth of premium for each order. And this basically makes it very condensed, or at least way more condensed than before, because remember, we're spitting out all of the unusual options flow, which could be anywhere from $25,000 of premium all the way up to an infinite amount of premium. But if you filter it for only over $100,000 worth, that's going to condense everything and make all of the ones that you do see even more optimal, because you know that there's a lot more money going into each of these. Also, what I would like to do, if I'm looking for individual tickers, you can go all the way down to here and then click the only stocks tab as well. So it won't show ETFs or like the SPY or the QQQs, just because there is a lot of money that goes into those. So this will condense it even more if you want to trade just individual tickers. And I like to do this at the end of each day or just in the middle of each day to get a sense on what tickers are hot and have potential to go further. And actually today I did find a very good setup. I'm going to share with you why I think it's a good setup. It's a little bit further down here, but it was an airline stock. It's UAL, and this is United Airlines. So what I really like about this print and what caught my eye is, first of all, Cheddar Flow did highlight it in purple just because this one was highly unusual. It was far out of the money, which is why we did highlight it automatically on here. So 49 strike, and they got this one at 43.63. So this is far out of the money. Also, the expiration is in March 20th, 2022. So that's coming up. That's only in 2 months from right now. So that is coming up from where we are currently, and that's not like they put a lot of time on that contract. It is coming up pretty soon, so they don't have that much time. Data decay will start kicking in a little bit later in April by a lot. So they are expecting a large move within the next 2 months. Another huge portion, which again, the first thing that I shared with you in this video, was the premium. $1.1 million is quite a bit, especially because it's also supplemented with a lot of other calls as well. So there's a ton of money going into United Airlines today. And this is huge because they got $1.1 million worth of it. And that's very uncommon for a ticker like United Airlines to get a large order like this. They literally had 7,245 contracts bought in this one order alone. So this really caught my eye. Like to see all of these things that I shared with you here. It's out of the money. It's within the next few months of expiration. And also, this one was over $1 million in premium. So this caught my eye. It's a sweep. This person was hitting the ask. So this is a perfect order that I like to look at. And what I'll do right after looking at an order like this, I'll go up and check out the chart. So I clicked on the chart right here. Look at how beautiful this ended today. So this contract, we can see actually the time, was bought at 3:38 Eastern. So we can tell it was, literally right before this pump started is when they got that contract. It doesn't have to happen right away after a large order hits the tape where it starts cranking after that. It does sometimes end up doing that, but this one did start cranking after this order was bought and closed the day very, very nicely. And what I like to do with these swing plays is look at the daily chart to get a sense on where it could go. So it did get a nice pickup right here. From earlier today, and it looks like it is making an uptrend. We could draw some trend lines right here really quick on it. Basically, this person thinks that it is going to test this trend line up here, most likely before that time, which actually converges perfectly with 49. You can see on the right over here what the level is, literally perfect with 49. So they are expecting a test of this trend line for the third time before that expiration expires. So very interesting to see that. It kind of matches up, which is crucial for my strategy, because if it does match up with a crucial trend line and they were buying it, that's something that could definitely come to fruition. And I love matching plays with that. It matches both of my criteria on a great order, supplemented with other orders as well. Plus the TA matches with it. So this is a really good setup and is something that I would start looking for good risk reward on a technical analysis standpoint to potentially enter that trade. Okay, so now that we have that strategy down, I do want to share a little bit more insight on individual tickers. And basically, if you click right here on that ticker that you were interested in, it will bring up the entire page for that. And actually, it had a lot of flow. I actually didn't notice how much it had just from today alone. This is Monday, March 28th, but pretty crazy with all the flow it had. And not only is there a lot of premium backing it, all of these orders, or seemingly all of these, are out of the money for the most part, which is very, very bullish for sure. So a lot of money going into these calls today on United Airlines. So definitely a name to watch following this week for sure, just because it is potential breakout kind of setting up here. But what you can see on the top here for Cheddar Flow software, the call flow to put flow. And today, for over $100,000 worth of premium orders, it was 95% call to 5% put. So considering how many orders there were and the fact that it's 95% to 5%, that's a very bullish signal. And the more days that you see a consistent trend where it's the overwhelming majority of the percentage is call flow to put flow, that is a very bullish catalyst, and typically will mean that you're going to see some upside, whether it be throughout those days or after those days kind of were completed. So this can be a very rough estimate on an individual ticker to give you a sense on where the trend is for that ticker. And it could be that the stock was falling, but you saw a lot of days in a row where this was green or majority green up here, and that could mean there could be a reversal coming in the future. So it is a very basic metric, but it could be used as a variable in your overall trading strategy. I like to reference it super simple. All you have to do, literally, I like to filter it personally for over 100,000, kind of give away some of that junk that's a little bit cheaper in terms of premium. But I just like to reference this first thing when I'm looking at an individual ticker. I will just click on this, look at this right away, and think, oh wait, this is really bullish, 95% to 5%. Let me check a little bit further. And that could be a really easy general rule because it's a lot of tickers. There's a lot of tickers in the market. It's hard to scan through each one. So this is a very easy thing to reference right when you look at it. Makes it very easy to look through the rest of these, and overall, looking really bullish on United Airlines. All right, so the next thing I'm going to share with you today is the second thing on the side here. You can click on it. It's a tab. It's called Historical Flow. I personally really like to use this tab because I can either back test to see kind of what worked in the past in terms of flow and my technical analysis convergence. And also you can just get a sense on what kind of names are really bullish from like the past week. So the example I'm going to be using today is none other than GameStop. So GME, this thing has been going up a lot lately. I'll just show you a reference on the chart. Basically, we retested the previous pennant that we had earlier this year, fell below, kind of was consolidating below, and then boom, shot off and actually retested it. So tomorrow is going to be a very crucial day for the bulls. If they're able to get this thing over the pennant and close above, that's very bullish, but it's going to be a very hard resistance, by the way. So it's going to be a little bit more difficult to get that over. But overall, looking at this flow, we can check back to the week prior to this thing kind of exploding and get a sense if there was a lot of call flow that we could learn from for the future to see if there was anything very unusual that kind of started the trend. So this day, relatively March 21st to 22nd was the day that this kind of started to get moving, or right before. I mean, we're seeing quite a bit of call flow. Nothing super insane. I do like these prints that we had down here, actually, the April 14th ones and the May 20th ones. These were far out of the money, 100 strikes over here. So these were far out of the money and had a lot of premium to back it. So these four right here, very interesting. These people definitely were bullish on it and got paid very nicely if they were holding throughout the rest of the week. But looking throughout the rest of these, nothing too insane. There were a lot of unusual orders hitting the tape, so our software was picking these up. This bet right here is pretty incredible. 200 strike for the 401. So that was a big bet, but not insane amount of premiums for the rest of the day. These are the orders, though, that were key that happened a little bit earlier in the week that were very interesting. Now, if we look later, for March 23rd to 25th, we're going to see a very different story with a lot more premium kind of hitting the tape here. So you can see 192,000 for this 200 call, 213,000 right here. I'm just scrolling throughout all of these, 418,000 for this call right here. So a lot more premium starting to hit the tape. This thing's starting to get running. People are getting more and more bullish. These are super far out of the money contracts people are buying. 175 strike, 200 strike, and they're putting a lot of money. And these are institutions, remember, with that block order. So these institutions are like, wait, this thing is starting to squeeze again. We need to get back into this. They see something going on. So it's really good to see that convergence of not only retail hopping in this, but also institutions. So tons of money going into this thing. We had a $825,000 order right there on the leap, and just scrolling through these, a lot of money on those days. So this is a big sign that something could be coming on GameStop, and something did indeed happen after that, because it did pop up quite a bit. Had a massive day today, 25% on the day. So pretty incredible for that big retest, and order flow was very consistent throughout the entire thing. No questions asked. You looking through all of these from the past week basically set us up for this large day. So this was a very big signal of what was to come in the future. And the next feature I want to share with you today and how to use it is this third tab we have on Cheddar Flow. It's called the Flow Overview tab. This tab I really like to use, especially on weekends. And if you do watch our weekly recap videos that we post on this YouTube channel, which by the way, if you do not, just subscribe below, literally one click of a button, you'll be able to see whenever we post a new video. I use this one every single weekend to get a sense on what tickers had a ton of premium going into them in terms of order flow from that past week, and typically it does transition early on in the next week. So it's kind of gives us a sense on what is hot going into the end of the week and what can maybe continue to be hot later on if it does match with my technical analysis and also my order flow review. So looking through this, Tesla has been pretty hot lately. This thing has been cranking for a while, so no surprise this was the top ticker today. AMC, actually very interesting. This one was following GameStop, but was getting a lot of premium today. So I personally didn't actually look at this yet, but this flow is pretty incredible. No joke here. You could see a lot of these are very far out of the money. We had the 40 calls happening here, 30 call, another 40 call right here. So these are very bullish bets. People are betting this thing may continue with that path that I showed you of GME. And actually, let's check the chart right here. I haven't checked it today. Oh, massive day today, 45% on the day. So that's pretty incredible. If this thing were to test or back test the previous pennant, you have to get all the way up to like 50. So that'd be pretty crazy if this thing did get up to there. First resistance would be around 36 for this first green line. So it does look like it is en route to there. And looking at the flow, a lot of people bullish on that 40. We had a 70 and 80 call right here. So that's pretty incredible, but very bullish today. Look, just scrolling through all these are all over $25,000 worth of premium on each of these. Some of them even in like the 500,000 plus range. So pretty incredible that all of this happened today on AMC. And that is one of the reasons why this feature here is very important, because if you missed this throughout the day, didn't see it on like Twitter or something, you could just check here and see that it had a very hot day, and it's going to be pretty volatile tomorrow, and it's definitely tradable in the future as well. So definitely something important to look at here. Google typically isn't up here, but did have some very large prints at the tape. 23.1 million in premium for that 2400 strike. So pretty big. Could be Nancy Pelosi. She is a big fan of Google and likes to pick in the money contracts with a lot of premium in them. So probably wasn't, but hey, who knows? Could have definitely been. But this one was a pretty large order, so I'm glad that it did show up on here, and I checked the chart typically afterwards. I won't do it for each of these tickers just to make sure that the video is more concise. But basically, I check the chart after and see if it matches with that strike. But yeah, looking throughout all of these, it shows how much premium was in each one. Very, very useful. This was on the bullish flow. You can change it to bearish flow as well if we are in a more bearish market setting. This is very useful. And then also you could check top sectors. Technology and tech for the Hughes were really hot today. You could see with a lot more orders going to those. And then most active as well. This is no surprise. Tesla had a lot of those orders, very, very active orders, and then AMC, of course, as well. So pretty much followed that. And you can filter it for the previous day, the entire week, and also last week. So this is another very useful feature that I use along with that historical flow tab to see kind of how things were ramping up prior to a large move. Really, really like this tab on Cheddar Flow. Okay, so now that you're starting to get really familiar with order flow and the Cheddar Flow software all in one, I do want to share how we kind of get a sense on when orders might be opening or closing, because that's a very important step. Not all of these orders that show up on Cheddar Flow are opening orders where people are just opening their position in it. They could also be closing where they're maybe selling those contracts. So a very crucial thing that we like to use to determine if it is an opening or closing order is the volume volume to open interest. So these are the last two ones on here. So vol would just be the volume of that contracts, and then open interest, the amount of contracts that were already being held previously. So basically a very easy way to kind of get a sense on if something was opening is if the volume is over the open interest, because remember, the open interest is the amount of contracts that were being held previously to that day. If there's more volume on that day, then that'd be an easy signal that people are opening their contracts on whatever they chose for whatever strike or an expiration, etc. So on Apple today, a lot of volume was going into these contracts, and as a result, these were most likely opening ones because this thing did go up quite a bit today. And you can see continuously throughout here, there were a lot of over or greater than volume to open interest on there. So it's just a consistent trend throughout the day. Some pretty incredible ones like over 100,000. So it's been getting quite a bit of volume. Same thing would go for puts. This thing was an opening order, but as you can see, a lot less puts today than there were calls, and rightfully so because it did go up quite a bit. And it's going to be the same thing looking throughout each of these. And a lot of these orders today were most likely opening ones. Another variable that kind of gives us a sense along with the volume to open interest is the delta. So if a contract has a higher delta, which if you look at the order details, we have the delta highlighted down here. If it has a higher delta, especially over 0.90, typically that means it's going to be super far in the money, and that typically means that they are closing those orders. So ones that are deep in the money aren't ones that I like to use as much because they're most likely going to be closing orders. It doesn't have to be that way. However, if it does match the criteria of the the lower volume to a greater open interest and then also has a high delta, then I'm not going to really use that as a variable in my trading strategy just because it probably was a closing order. If it wasn't, it's not going to be as useful either because there's no aggressive out the money hitting of the tape on there, because I like to see the ones that are aggressive where they're shooting for way more in terms of the price of that ticker, because that helps with options trading tremendously, because if you do know that they're aggressive, then it's going to happen within a short amount of time that move occurs, which is very good for you if you are into options trading, because theta is obviously a killer of those contracts and you don't want to wait around on a move happening like way later on. So those are some crucial things that we like to use on Cheddar Flow. You also can see if, remember, it's at near the ask, at the ask, or above the ask on the side of that order. And also if you could see if it's at the bid, you could get a sense on a potential selling of that order as well. So those are three things that I like to use to determine if it's an opening or closing order. Remember, at the end of the day, we don't know technically if it was opening or closing. Only the person that took that transaction, both parties of that transaction will know, kind of similar to dark pool, which we'll share in a future video, kind of get the dark pool basics as well, which we have one, by the way, on our channel right now if you want to check that out, but we'll go even more in depth, so definitely subscribe below if you want to check that out. But yeah, these are the variables I like to use to determine if something's opening or closing. Now, the last part of this video I'm going to kind of designate just for the S&P 500. This can be very difficult to trade, and also the order flow can kind of be confusing to some people that are entering. And basically everything that I taught you before in this video is kind of not used as much in terms of SPY flow. It's more so just for the individual ticker aspect. So for SPY and triple Qs for NASDAQ, both of these trade a bit differently, and as a result, I have to use different types of strategies when I'm looking at them. So basically, for my filters on SPY, I don't use the typical 100,000 premium plus. I actually use the 500,000 plus in premium, just because a lot more money goes into the S&P 500 and the Qs than it would go into an individual ticker. So automatically, I want to condense it a lot more, get a sense on what large money is doing with these, just because they have a much larger checkbook when they're deciding and what they want to enter or close in that regard for the indexes. So SPY here, after I filtered that, definitely condenses it a lot more for a more manageable amount here. And basically, I'm looking for very similar attributes, stuff like that, like this one right here that's out of the money. It's a 460 strike, and they bought this at 456 like I shared earlier in this video. So I like to see the stuff like this, and also the huge orders that are like over 1 million. We've been actually getting some of those previously, not as much today in that regard. But one thing that I do want to caution you guys about is ones that are super far out of the money, like this one right here. So this one is a 250 strike, which is very far out of the money from the 452 spot price they bought this at, and it's for June 17th of 2022. And basically, this thing is most likely not going to hit. Like 99% sure this thing is not going to hit by that time. Could it happen? Yes, for sure. However, we see a lot of these hit the tape and people think, oh, the crash is going to happen because they're super bearish on this and they put $500,000 into it and it's a block order because it's institution. Institutions need to hedge their long positions, and the way that they do this, or one of the ways they do it, is they buy a very far out of the money block of puts to hedge that position. In the off chance that something really crazy happens and the market crashes, they would at least hedge their long position, not lose everything on it. So they do these periodically in time windows that align with their algorithms that could show some potential danger. And they'll buy a certain amount, like 12,000 contracts in this case, and expect them to go completely worthless and expire worthless. But they need to do this for security on their huge, like hundreds of millions of dollars worth of positions, even billions in some cases. They need to make sure that they're securing those at the end of the day. So don't take these types of orders into consideration. Look more closer to like within a certain range of the S&P 500's current price. And that's a key aspect that some people get tripped up upon, especially when they're starting out. Just make sure you keep that noted. But yeah, in regards to SPY, nothing crazy today in terms of the flow. The past week was a bit crazier because we were on our way up. Now it's kind of balancing out, and this could be a sign that we are going to consolidate in the near term or maybe do a slight pullback, but nothing crazy and no crazy bets were taking place today. However, we will have those in the future, and those are going to be crucial to look at because they'll give us a sense on where it may go. Also, I'll share again, like I said in another video, the dark pools, it's a bit different on SPY because we have stuff called signature prints, which those are a thing that I can talk about in the future, like I said, and it will take a bit to talk about as well, because they can be a bit complex, but I'll do my best to share with you there. But yeah, make sure you keep this into consideration. The super far out of the money bets on SPY aren't actually people thinking that it's going to hit there. It's just to hedge their position. That will help you with your strategies. But basically, this is a very crucial video that I share with you today on order flow basics for Cheddar Flow and how to navigate the software. Please reference this, like this, whatever you have to do to reference it in the future. I have timestamps below in the comments where you can click on them and go to certain segments to kind of refresh on it, just because I want to ensure that you guys understand the importance of this video and how it will help you in the future with your trading strategies. So definitely reference this going forward. If anybody has any questions, you could also give them this video to kind of get a sense on how they can improve their trading strategies and how they can use order flow. And yeah, appreciate you guys watching through this. Hopefully it helped you. If it did help you, drop a comment below. I always like to look at those, and I'll definitely answer any questions you have. If you have those, put them in the comments. Be happy to answer those. But yeah, otherwise, we'll see you guys in the next video.